Miku, it's the year 2022, and people still believe all the lies they hear on the internet. Well, for example, a lot of people still think that Sonic's real name is Ogilvie Maurice Hedgehog. No, of course not. Sonic's real name is just in fact Sonic the Hedgehog. Plain and simple and straightforward. No other names. Alright, video's over. Bye! Alright. I already hear some of you guys saying, Suarez Digital, you are a fake Sonic fan. Everyone knows that Sonic's real name is Ogilvie Maurice Hedgehog. Just Google it, you idiot. It has taken the entirety of my strength not to slap those people.
Let's get one thing straight. Sonic's real name was never Ogilvie Maurice Hedgehog, so where did that name originate from?
Oh, the Archie comics.
Sega of America had a lot of creative freedoms in establishing Sonic's backstory that was very different from his Japanese counterpart, and upon further licensing Sonic to third-party creatives, there were even more drastic freedoms given, and publishers like Archie Comics ran with these creative freedoms, most notably giving Sonic more friends than the video game canons ever could, rivals edgier than Shadow, parents, and of course, a real name.
Despite what it sounds like, I don't hate the Archie comics. I actually really like them. But what I do dislike is the fact that Archie Comics created an entire generation of fans that believe that the comic lore is the one true canon over the video game one.
I can appreciate the writers for trying to give an interesting backstory and dimension to what was once at a time a flat character, but depending on the writer, there were a lot of questionable decisions that were completely against what the character stood for and the entirety of the Sega lore itself. For the Archie comics, on multiple occasions it is revealed that Maurice is this version of Sonic's middle name, as he himself briefly mentions it to Sally, and then the next time, his father reveals it to Knuckles and Antoine, to where the latter proceeds to make fun of him. Former writer Ken Pender states, while it was never mentioned in the comics, he always planned for Sonic's first name to be Olgilvie. However, as much as I dislike this name, I can also admit that I don't know enough about Archie comics, so it is kind of hard for me to judge fairly. One thing I do say is rather heartwarming is the fact that these names, Ogilvie and Maurice, belong to Sonic's grandparents, and therefore, he was named after them in their honor. In the end, I personally never saw the need to give Sonic a different name. The name Sonic is just fine the way it is. I do hope that Archie Sonic can at least become proud of his real name, as it would be a shame if he never truly embraced these names, as they seem to hold a deep meaning for his family. But if he did, it sort of would diminish his canon name, that being Sonic, as nothing more than a fun nickname just given to him.
Unless, of course, the grandparents were complete jerks. And a lot of people might be saying that I'm making a big deal over nothing. But when people start believing that this is the real canon, then it becomes an issue. And why, you might ask? Well, it kind of gives a lot of creative freedom and power to people that probably shouldn't have it, who then go off to make their own creative decisions that bypass original mandates, and in the end, they kind of have the power to make their own fanfictions completely canon, which then go on to fool an entire generation of even more people. Yeah, I probably have some issues.
And I know I'm picking a lot on Archie right now, but there are a lot of other mediums that also give Sonic different backstories with their own real names for Sonic. In 1992, Sega of Japan's marketing department worked with Shogakukan to publish a manga series aimed at school children. The manga series, titled Sonic the Hedgehog, created an entirely new origin story for Sonic. The setting takes place in Hedgehog Town, where Nicky, our 4th grade protagonist, lives. Nicky is described as a shy, timid, and gentle hedgehog with a big heart, but unfortunately, he's also weak, cowardly, and lacks any nerve to stand up for himself or others. Despite this, he dreams of defeating the forces of evil, and he yearns to be considered a hero.
And this is when Sonic comes into play.
In this universe, Sonic is his alter ego, his Yami to his Yugi. When things get rough, Sonic takes over and saves the day, leaving Nicky with no memories of what happened. And this Sonic has his own personality separate from Nicky, being entirely confident, fearless, and ready to help those in need, but it is his strong sense of pride that often leads him to be cocky and brash. Sadly, with all that said, this version of Sonic restricts his existence as nothing more to a transformation. I unfortunately couldn't find many translations of this manga, so it's really hard to say what entirely happens to make a fair judgment of this lore as well. But the fact is, this story is just as canon as Little John is, and by that, I mean it's entirely not canon to the grand scheme of Sonic lore. Reflecting back on our first point, this was licensed and made by a third party with the goal to make a manga aimed at school children. That's why Nicky is in 4th grade, to be relatable to them. Along with his backstory, location, and characters, we never see or hear from them ever again.
And I know I'm sounding like a hater, but just hear me out. Maybe they won't be canon to the video game lore or Sega entirely, but they can always be canon to that specific category that they're in.
For the most part, all of these third-party sources will always take inspiration from the original source material, that being the games, and incorporate them into their series, as you can see in Archie and Sonic X lore, which both have done plenty of times, and arguably have better developed them than the original games itself.
The video games, on the other hand, have never taken any inspiration from any of the third-party companies.
Actually, in the 90s, Sega of America did occasionally use Western media for inspiration, such as changing Amy Rose's name to Princess Sally in the US Sonic CD manual, and even including the Freedom Fighters in the Sega of America developed game Sonic Spinball.
And with entering the age of the internet and instant communication, the age of free interpretation and localization have come to an end.
With all of this said, we will take one last look at the Sonic Bible, which as you know was used as a guidebook for Western-based Sonic teams to build and structure their lores upon. In the Sonic Bible, Sonic's real name is Sonny the Hedgehog, who lives under a hedge in Nebraska with his mother and 5 sisters.
I'm just gonna throw a little shade, but the name Sonny was at one point more canon than Ogilvie Maurice Hedgehog will ever be. And I know a lot of people might be saying now, hey Suarez Digital, isn't Sonic's real name Mr. Needlemouse? And once again, no.
The name Mr. Needlemouse is a prototype name that only exists in the real world as a placeholder until they could find a proper name to give Sonic, and by saying that Mr. Needlemouse is Sonic's real name is like saying that Shadow's real name is Terios, or claiming that Rouge's real name is Nails, or stating that Silver's real name is Venice, all just because these were their prototype names before the finalized names ever came to fruition. In the end, whether you love or hate Mr. Needlemouse as a name, it will always be a part of Sonic history.
In the end, does any of this matter? Well, not really, as the Sonic Twitter at one point did say that everything is canon. So from your OC to someone else's OC, you're welcome to believe in whatever it is you want. And if you want to control the Sonic lore, the best way isn't to write for the video games or write a TV show. By far, the best way is to take control of the Twitter. Legend says that those who control the social medias will gain far more power than the Master Emerald could ever give them. By all means, I bet if someone took over the Twitter and claimed that all Archie comic characters were canon, then it would be a possibility. And that, my friends, would be the only way to bring them into the video game lore. And while I'm joking, I sadly do believe that this might actually be a possibility. And so whatever happens beyond this point, I take no responsibility. Hey guys, Suarez Digital here. First off, thank you so much for 372 subscribers. It really means the world to me, and I will continue to make more wholesome content for you all. Second, I read so many scientific papers that claim that if you tell people to subscribe to you, then they will subscribe to you. So subscribe to me. Right now. Boom. Do it. Right now. And if we get 400 subscribers by the end of this month, then I will tie Miku to a drone, and we'll see how far she flies.